physician who's been in actual medical practice for just this side of 40 years, I've had many opportunities to observe metabolic problems manifested through the aging process of many of my patients. And Immunocal offers us a chance to reverse some of the ravages of time and actually see improvements that I have never witnessed before.
In the late 80s, Dr. Bunos met Dieter Beer, an Austrian-German businessman. Together they formed a scientific research company called Immunotech Research. Dieter financed the legal work required to obtain 6 North American patents for Immunocal. At first, Dr. Bunos began to make small quantities of Immunocal under close supervision right in Montreal. But ultimately, his search for the highest quality whey protein concentrate led to a dairy located in the heartland of America. The area this dairy is located in has one of the lowest levels of pollution in the country. The herd has never been given antibiotics and does not consume food containing pesticides. Immunotech Research packages Immunocal under the highest pharmaceutical standards. Dr. Jimmy Gutman, author of the GSH Handbook, tells us what glutathione does for the body.
Now, with all this research being done in glutathione, all these thousands of articles that are coming out, people still ask the question, why can't I just eat glutathione? In fact, you can't eat glutathione. What happens when you eat glutathione? It gets broken down in your digestive tract and it ends up being passed. The only way to raise glutathione in your body is to eat the building blocks for your body to manufacture glutathione. We call these building blocks precursors. All that Immunocal does is supply your body with the precursors to make glutathione. A person can, in the comfort of his own home, take a package of this product, mix it up, and ingest it. And once you eat the Immunocal, it enters your digestive tract. It's safely passed into your intestine. It's very easily absorbed. Once it's absorbed, it gets picked up in your bloodstream. And it is the building blocks of precursors that are traveling through your bloodstream. When these precursors get to your cells, there are certain amino acids that are released into the cell, and the cell itself starts to manufacture glutathione.
Dr. Bunos's breakthrough discovery of this immunostimulating powder led to the full development and eventual marketing of Immunocal by Immunotech Research. In 1996, attorney Alex Konigsberg introduced Dr. Bunos and Dieter Beer to Chuck Roberts, who owned Evergreen Products. They joined forces to bring Immunocal to market through direct sales. In a recent lecture, Dr. Alan Summersall, in his own inimitable way, drew attention to the importance of Dr. Bunos's discovery.
You know, after 20 years of being very concerned in the wellness industry, concerned about what the individual could do for their own self-protection. In fact, even after going through medical school and being involved in medical practice, I had never had this particular idea go through my mind of the individual cell protecting itself. See, each particular cell in the body is trying to protect itself for its own health. The cell on the face is protecting itself against an ultraviolet ray when you're sunbathing. A cell in the gut is protecting itself from a carcinogen that gets into the diet. Every cell in the body is protecting itself on a daily basis. And in order to do that, this cell has its own defensive mechanism. And that's where glutathione is so important. It's the cell's principal defensive molecule in its own defense. And what Dr. Bunos was able to do was to allow us to take an action step, to do something to enable the cell, to facilitate the cell being able to make more glutathione in its own protection. And by being able to do that, I think he has started a revolution.
John H. Molson tells us why healthy people and even athletes can expect better performance by using Immunocal.
Now, what we found with Immunocal is that it positively affects the immune system. In other words, it can reduce the incidence of upper respiratory illness in athletes. So what does that mean for the athlete? Well, typically athletes will get sick 2 to 3 to 4 times a year. And for a professional athlete, or for the owner of a professional team, that can mean lost dollars. So Immunocal can positively affect the team or the athlete by improving the athlete's immune system and thus less downtime. The second major criteria is recovery. We know for a fact that oxidative stress induces injuries to the muscle, thereby having muscle soreness after intense training. What Immunocal does is it ups or increases the antioxidant quantity in the cell, thus regulating the injury induced by oxidative stress in the muscle. As a consequence, the professional athlete will be able to train more frequently at a higher level rather than having to wait for the soreness to abate. The third primary area is that of of performance, and what we've seen with Dr. Lanza's work at the Montreal Children's Hospital was athletes taking Immunocal had a 13.5% increase in their performance versus no increase in the placebo group. Now this is fairly dramatic if you think that races are won and lost by a matter of seconds.
There are now tens of thousands of people who are using Immunocal daily to improve and maintain good health. It is the definitive wellness product for the new millennium. However, Immunocal not only promotes wellness, but it is patented to treat some serious illnesses. Immunocal has actually helped save the lives of many people. Here are a few case studies.
Immunocal to me has been like a resurrection. It has been like coming back from death to life.
The case of this lady I'm referring to, she had pulmonary fibrosis. She had no lung function left when I saw her. She had 1 liter lung capacity. She couldn't breathe. She was a candidate for a lung transplant. She had no other choice. She was treated with antibiotic, bronchodilator, steroid without effect. Then comes along this milk-derived protein that cured her. Sounds like a stunning statement to make, but she was well documented by 2 independent lung disease specialists at McGill in 2 different hospitals. She was given the treatment with this whey protein concentrate called Immunocal. She lung capacity went back to 3 liter, 0.3. She was stopped the treatment. She went back to 1 liter. She was gasping for air 2-3 times to make sure it was not a fluke, it was a real effect of the treatment. Now the second lesson we derive from her is a lesson of humility for the established medicine. Because if steroid, the best of antibiotics, bronchodilator, couldn't do anything for this lady, and here comes this milk-derived protein that actually cured her. It's been now a year since. She's doing very well.
Several years ago, after a complicated illness, my lung doctor diagnosed pulmonary fibrosis, and then my life came to a stop.
In the case of Nina Pertouche, she recognized that despite taking a variety of medications, her condition was not improving. She started taking Immunocal on her own initiative and had a dramatic improvement in her function. When her doctor called me up, he was quite surprised, but when we discussed it, I discussed that there was a very good basis for why it might be improving. Nina then subsequently went off the product and her symptoms came back. It was at that point that Nina got in touch with me, and what I suggested to her that if she was going to go back on the product, that we could study her before and then 1 month after going back on the product. She told me she was going back on the product, and so we organized for her to come in. And what we did is we measured her lung function and we measured her glutathione levels. And then we saw her 1 month later. And with, much to Nina's pleasure and to our own pleasure, Nina had a dramatic improvement in her lung function and a dramatic improvement in her glutathione levels.
This is one case that I've been following very carefully. This is of a woman who had Hodgkin's disease, which is a type of cancer, and she was subjected to a lot of radiotherapy. Subsequently, she developed a lot of scarring in her lungs, something we call pulmonary fibrosis. And this pulmonary fibrosis left her quite breathless. She was someone who was very active. She was a lawyer. She was taking care of her kids, and she found herself stuck at home, essentially on home oxygen. Now, we tried all different kinds of treatment. We tried inhaled steroids, bronchodilators, different kinds of medications, and really she just was not getting any better. One day she showed up to her pulmonary physician saying, look, I can breathe. And not knowing whether this was placebo or not, we did some pulmonary function tests on her. And sure enough, she was back to 95% of normal.